Solo always does shots first. Singing yup no.
Yup, yup.
You're singing yup no.
Chucha.
Yup no.
No.
At the Cantina Club.
In terms of objects, kind of our last category of Easter eggs, there are so many objects in the background of the film that connect to the expanded universe and then also to the original trilogy. I'll just mention a few and you guys jump in with others. Lando, whenever he's introducing the Falcon to Han and Kira, he mentions having made some modifications and having installed an alluvial damper. Isn't that the thing that's malfunctioning, that Han thinks is malfunctioning?
Well, Han keeps calling for it.
It's one of the things in the list of things that when he's in the main pit or whatever in the middle of the Falcon, and trying to find out what's wrong, and he keeps calling out Chewie. He's like, "This alluvial dampers," he keeps. That's one of the things that he lists.
Yeah, when the Falcon can't make it to hyperdrive in the Empire Strikes Back,
right? Right before they get into the asteroid field.
Yeah, another callback to the asteroid field.
Captain Sola, I see you're having engine trouble.
Nothing we can't handle.
And this is a really silly and obscure one. When they're aboard Dryden Voss's yacht, and Beckett and Han are meeting with him for the first time, and he offers them a delicacy, Kolo clawfish.
Oh, right.
Kolo clawfish, yep.
Right. It even shows a close-up of it, on a tray. And
I was wondering what the deal was with that.
What the heck is that?
It's going to be for sale at the Disney park or whatever.
It's actually the big monster that attacked the ship that Qui-Gon and
Obi-Wan
and Jar Jar were aboard.
It's one of those giant fish.
Yeah. So
I thought it might be porg egg or something in there.
I don't know what they were, but it had a close-up. I was like, that gotta mean something. And so thank you, Nerdist, for, I think it was Nerdist that pointed that out.
It's supposed to be like caviar or something. Obviously like a delicacy. Expensive delicacy or something.
Maybe it's very dangerous to get.
It looked like evil caviar. It was red and...
Only really evil gangsters can get it because they sacrifice their followers to get a hold of it.
Right.
Let's see, what else? The Valacord. Okay, the Valacord is mentioned by Beckett several times, right? When he's going to retire to Gleon-Somme and learn to play the Valacord with Val. And of course, there's one of the many risque sexual references that film had, surprisingly to me, throughout it. He's gonna learn finally to play the Valacord. This is actually a callback.
Do you think that's a risque sexual reference?
It's not really risque, but it's a.
But it is. Okay.
Yeah, yeah. He promises her he will learn to play the Valacord. He promised Val.
Maybe she just likes that instrument.
Yeah. But it's actually a reference to the Force Awakens and the Aftermath novel. Carillion read Aftermath. You don't recognize
I don't recall that.
Okay.
The thing about that novel is, I take it you've never read it?
No.
Okay, it's really, really bizarre and disjointed. It's almost like you have to, and I haven't read the next couple that came out after that to try, I'm assuming maybe those connected, but it would literally have a storyline for 50 pages and then it just completely left turn and all those characters are gone and it's a totally different story for a while, and then it goes back to a different third story and then back to the first story, but it's and then they don't really resolve a lot of it. It's really a strange book, so it was probably just some random reference in there.
Well, let me ask you, did Snap Wexley have much of a role in that book? You
A
know who
mod-
I'm talking about.
yeah. I mean, it was a moderate role. I mean, again, because of the disjointed nature of the multiple storylines, nobody really had a large role. So
Okay,
I would say a moderate role.
that's the reference because he's the dude who
Mhm.
plays the Valcourt.
Gotcha. Okay.
So
Okay.
Snap
No,
the X-wing
The
pilot
famous
who,
Valakor player.
famous
yes.
Valcourt
The
player.
galaxies only.
Yeah, guy who was he was played by one of the guys from Lost. Is that right? The
Yeah.
TV series Lost. Yeah. So there's
Well, was he in Lost? He was in Heroes, and he might have been in Lost, but not one of the main characters or anything, if I remember right.
yeah. So
I don't remember him from Lost.
we're getting kind of an Easter egg to J.J. Abrams.
But he's
stuff,
been in
I
a lot of
guess.
J.J. Abrams stuff, yeah.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah. Okay. And then the other important objects. There's two collections of artifacts and mementos in the film that are interesting. The most obvious one is in Dryden Voss's office, where he has that whole big collection of artifacts that look like they're drawn from different
Right.
cultures, and we can talk about that in a second. But the first one is one that really surprised me, and I only came across it in looking at the Star Wars show videos online. They had an interview with Pablo Hidalgo in which he took you through the Millennium Falcon, through Lando's Falcon, and showed you some of the items and some of the rooms aboard. And next to the wet bar, he showed an area of the Falcon that he called Lando's Treasures. And it contained three, what he called mementos, of things that were very important to Lando Calrissian. And he showed each of them. And there are three little silver models that are in glass cases, preserved in glass cases. One of them is a model of the Millennium Falcon itself. Another one is a model of what looks like a pod racer, like the pod
Mhm.
racers from Phantom Menace. And the third is real intriguing. It's a model of Cloud City. A
Oh,
model of Cloud City.
interesting. Okay.
Yeah.
Oh,
So,
very cool.
so when he says mining colonies are the worst, when
Yeah.
they're headed to Kessel and they talk about it being a spice mining colony, and he says mining colonies are the worst. You wonder, well, has he already had some experience with Cloud City, before this film? Maybe he's been there, something happened to him there, I don't know. But they paid careful attention to that in this video to imply that there was some other bigger backstory behind it.
I thought that was more a Easter egg to, imply that in the future he would own one. Also he would try to make it a nice, beautiful place instead of an ugly hole in the ground.
Instead of a Kessel, yeah.
It would be in the clouds,
That's a good interpretation. That's probably more
Yeah.
likely.
It's kind of like when Obi-Wan said, if this goes wrong, we could be stuck here for a long time in Phantom Menace about Tatooine.
Yeah.
It's just a kind of a little joke about what we know about his future.
Yeah. And then finally, there's the collection in Dryden Voss's office, which is full of all kinds of cool stuff, and is very appropriate for kind of a guy who's connected through his gangster connections to the Empire. As you find out by the end of the film that both the gangsters groups and the Empire have been working together to oppress people around the galaxy. So his collection is almost like a colonialism type thing, where a colonialist collects things from all of the different cultures that they've conquered or whatever.
Right.
Trophies and whatnot, yeah.
Yeah, but a lot of these things are callbacks to old novels and comic books, and I'll just run through a couple of them. Did you notice the callback to the Brian Daley Han Solo trilogy of novels? The Crystal
The skull?
The Crystal Skull.
Yeah.
Yeah. Mhm.
Yeah. Do you guys remember that at all from the Brian Daley novels?
Vaguely. Yeah. Again, that's a series of
Like
novels
you
I
said, I
haven't
think it
read
was
since
on a
the
cover.
early '80s. Yeah.
I think it was
Yeah.
featured on a cover or something, but no, I would have thought of Indiana Jones first.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Me too.
Kingdom of the Crystal Skull.
That's what I think of. Yeah.
Yeah, in fact, I'm wondering if that isn't a double callback, like you were talking about.
Probably so, yeah.
Because it's actually identified in the Solo Visual Dictionary as Zim's Death Head, which is a crystal skull from Han Solo and the Lost Legacy, which is one of the Brian Daley novels, and it does appear on the cover of that novel. But it does look like kind of the skulls from the Indiana Jones film too.
Let me interject here real
Yeah.
quick. Crystal skulls in our world, there's a mythos around crystal skulls, and even in Memphis, where we're all from, pretty much, there was always that rumor that there was a crystal skull placed in the top of the pyramid when it was built in Memphis. So the pyramid and the ziggurat is used as a Sith symbol in Star Wars, Clone Wars, and Rebels and stuff like that. So anyway, vague, but a crystal skull at the top of a power structure could be seen as a Sith and a like a dark magic symbol or something like an occult symbol. But you could draw the reference with the Sith and the pyramids and the all those symbols of power and all that stuff. But all the Sith, like their holocron and their temples and stuff, tend to be triangular shapes and stuff. So
And
anyway,
that is another artifact there, a Sith holocron. Did you notice that? There's
I didn't notice it.
Yeah, there's a Sith holocron, and the Visual Dictionary does identify it as such. The mention of the holocron brings up another Sith reference in the decor of Voss's office. The Visual Dictionary
rock?
points out, yeah, there's a rock.
The rock.
His desk has a rock that forms the basis of the desk. If you look at it next time you watch the film, you'll see it's a main part of the desk. And that's supposed to be a fragment of a Sith temple that he collected.
Wow.
Interesting.
So
Okay.
he evidently is a big Sith follower, at least has interest in...
So he's a Sith fanboy.
Yeah.
Well, and also just point out he has red eyes.
Oh, yeah.
He has the beginnings of red eyes. I don't know if that was supposed to imply he's a drug addict or he's being corrupted by the dark side. But I think I take it more as he's being corrupted by the dark side after seeing it a couple times.
Yeah, because he's been in training with Darth Maul, and he has his bladed weapons, and he knows Terraskasi. So.
Well, he's got scars on his face that are reminiscent of Darth Maul a little bit, and he's got red eyes. I mean, I think it was just foreshadowing.
Yeah.
Or whatever.
Okay, final items that we've mentioned connection already to some of the Indiana Jones movies with the Crystal Skull. Did you notice that there were artifacts from the other Raiders of the Lost Ark movies there?
I've heard that there was, the fertility idol from the opening scene of Raiders that's supposed to be in there?
Yeah, the golden idol from...
Golden idol, I saw it, yeah.
Yeah, it's right in the scene where Beckett is first talking to Dryden.
Negotiating at one point on the couch when they're sitting on the couches.
Yes, it's right over his shoulder on the table behind his shoulder. And there's also the stones. Do you remember the sacred stones from Temple of Doom?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, the Shankara stones.
Yeah, those are
Shankara stones. Of course you would remember the name of those.
Yeah, those are on there. And when we were watching this the first time, we wondered if there might also be a Holy Grail to complete...
Dr. Jones!
complete
I'm sorry.
complete the trilogy. Because there were these cups and stuff in the background. Is there a Holy Grail there? But
I was thinking that there is a weird oblong-looking cup, but it doesn't quite look like it. But it could be one of the cups from that room.
Yeah.
Yeah, I somewhere I think on another show I was listening to, they'd mentioned that it might be there. So it may be, we'll have to examine that further.
And I think on that same table there's a collection of boxes there. And one of the, I looked this up in the Visual Dictionary, and I just gotta share this with you. One of these boxes contain the ashes of a previous chancellor who had religious connections, Chancellor Constipex the First.
Okay.
Constipex
the First, yeah. So
Star Wars names have always left something to be desired.
yeah. So Constipex Constipex the First is there on one of those tables. Is his remains, at least.
Well,
All right.
Darth Maul could be said to take after him in that one scene.
Yeah, Darth Maul stuck on the commode all day, so
Right, he's
evidently
obviously straining.
this is part of Sith mythos too. Maybe I don't know. So Constipex the First is there for you. Those of you who are familiar with whatever that
Whatever
mythology
that
where
is.
that comes from. And then finally, maybe the most obvious reference aside from the crystal skull and the golden idol is there's a green um, glass statue on one of the pedestals that's destroyed in the final fight between Kira Dryden and Han. And
Yeah.
Pablo
It's like an
Hidalgo.
oval looking thing.
Yeah, it's a image of a figure reaching up to the sky. And Pablo Hidalgo confirmed that this is a reference to an artifact from the old Star Wars Marvel comic book series from a 3 comic book story arc of Adventures of Han and Lando. The statue is called the Dancing Goddess, and it comes from a story arc that started in the comics right after Empire Strikes Back, where Lando and Chewie go out on the adventure to find Han Solo after
Right.
Boba Fett has carried
And they
him
go
away.
every single place except Tatooine, right?
Yes, they go.
They're determined to stop every single planet in the galaxy first before they go there.
And in this the first comic is it's comic 79, The Big Con. They are looking for Han, and they go to visit some of the gangsters that Han used to work with to see if they know where Boba Fett has taken Han to. And these gangsters are looking for 2 artifacts. One of them, they're called the Dancing Goddess statue and the Minstrel. And it turns out at the end of this comic that Lando actually has those artifacts in his possession because he's won them in a Sabak game. They were stolen from their original homeworld. Gordo, I think, was in the comic book, is the name of the homeworld. And he has them in his possession. And so reference to them shows up again in a second comic book after they've rescued Han after Return of the Jedi. And then the final comic book in that 3 comic book series is number 99, called Touch of the Goddess. And it really features that statue because they return to the homeworld that it was taken from. Let's see if I can't remember what it's called. Gordo, I think, or Gordon or something like that. But they return to that homeworld.
Gordon.
And they're on a
Homeworld of Bob.
they're on a mercy mission with Admiral Akbar, Han, Lando, and Luke to save.
This is the infamous comic where Han's willing to blow up the planet to save Lando.
To blow up the whole planet, because in returning this artifact, the planet is sickening from a virus because this artifact was part of a temple that protected the planet from this virus. And so both of the artifacts have to be returned and restored to the temple for the planet to survive this terrible plague. And so when they figure out what's going on, Lando rushes to restore the goddess statue to the temple, and he contracts the plague. And the only way that he can be healed, he doesn't find out until after they've left that planet, I think. And the only way he can be healed is to be brought back into the temple for whatever they're going to do to heal him. And
right.
The people of that planet refuse to allow outsiders back into the temple because their artifacts were stolen before and nearly destroyed their planet. And so they're not going to let Lando back in. And so the comic, I think, ends with Han threatening to destroy the entire planet if they don't let him take Lando. And there's a wonderful cover of him like cradling Lando dying and screaming out, "I'm gonna blow up your whole planet." Like, what? And I'm like, Bar and Luke are there, and they're like, they don't intervene.
Looks like balance of the force.
Yeah,
it's fine.
and so of course they let him do it because they don't want to be blown up. And then at the end of the comic, Admiral Akbar is like, "Well, you ended up not destroying the planet, so I guess this is okay. We can just kind of forget about this."
Yeah.
The forgotten comic book.
There would have been a
adventure.
fine if you had destroyed this civilization, but we're gonna let it slide.
So that
I also
yeah. Go
I also
ahead.
like that this whole plot with these statues depends on the fact that Lando ran by his office and grabbed these two statues on his way out of Cloud City when the Empire was taking over. Like when they're trying to rescue Han, they're blasting their way out and getting on the Falcon. It's like, hang on, I gotta grab my statues. You know, this dancing goddess means a lot to me. Like maybe he had a safety deposit box on another planet. You know, we have yet to see the banking planet, I think, in Star Wars, but that's got to be coming. Maybe he has a. They did it in Harry Potter, but
Oh, I should mention too, if anybody's interested in those comics, and you go look them up. The first comic in the series had a drunken car chase with Chewie drunk, riding away with Lando, trying to escape from gangsters. Okay, so there's a drunken Wookiee in that one.
Wow.
And the second comic introduced Chewie's family, not including Lumpy and whatever those horrible abominations were that appeared in the holiday
Hollywood.
special.
Yeah, holiday special. Yeah.
well, it's good to know they were right on rescuing Han. You know,
Yeah.
the carbonite.
It took
They had
them,
time
what,
for the
like
drunken car chase and the
20 comics.
all
or
these
something.
subplots. They had 3 years. They had 3 years to kill. It was the silliest thing. I'll meet you at Tatooine by way of this planet and this planet and this planet. We've suddenly forgotten. They said Han Solo. So what else?
Yeah,
The Mandalorian
Corellian
armor
had
was
a-
in the office.
Oh yeah, the Mandalorian armor. Yeah.
Mhm.
That's another sideways reference to Maul as well, because Maul took over Mandalore with
Oh,
his allies in the syndicates, and they
Clone Wars,
wore
right.
like red. They changed their Mandalorian armor to a red Sith looking Death Trooper kind of thing.
Yeah.
And I can't remember if Maul ever wore any part of the armor or not, but all of his lieutenants and stuff did. So
Yeah, all of these things suggest we should have seen it coming, but none of us did.
Yeah.
So, Corellian had a few others you noticed.
Yeah, there's a couple more that I've got. One is just a reference, or not even a reference, a comment about how at the end of the movie, Han points out to Lando how he won the Sabak match fair and square. You know, he uses
Right.
the exact reference, in which they, obviously when they meet again on Cloud City, and it's like, hey, remember, I beat you fair and square. So that's another kind of a callback. And then the other one I found was, and again, I got this one online. The ship that Han mentions in the first Sabak game in the movie, he says he has collateral, and what he claims is that he has a what's called a VCX 100 model ship. That's actually the same model that is the Ghost in Star Wars Rebels.
Oh,
Oh,
cool.
Yeah, so
that's interesting.
that's the
Yeah.
model number, or the model type.
Oh, yeah,
Um,
that's cool.
There's also in that scene where Han fakes out Lando with the fake punch, like Lando did to Han in Empire.
Right. Yeah.
There's just almost every line of dialogue in Solo is a callback when you really analyze it or
You
think
really
about
analyze it.
There's tons of them and tons of little things like that, and motions and things they do. I was gonna salute. Beckett has this signature salute that is kind of, they don't dwell on it, but he gives it to the stormtrooper guards on the train when they get away from them, and then he gives it later in the movie. I can't remember exactly when, but it's it might have been in the Kessel Rebellion stuff or something. But it's his like signature little salute he does, where he does this kind of thing in it, and I for some reason I finally connected it to Han, and when he says goodbye to Lando in Jedi.
Yeah.
And gives that little salute. There's a couple of times where Han does things like that I think we're supposed to. I think Beckett was built to remind us of this is Han's role model in a lot of ways, and that he ends up being a lot like Beckett. So, so I think that salute was in there to kind of foreshadow that. And also, like I said earlier, this is dumb, but the Han's collar being torn and frayed in the beginning of Solo, I think is probably a callback to the story Harrison Ford tells, where he the original Han Solo shirt had a Western collar, like a button-down collar, and he didn't like that, so he tore it off, and so Han ended up with that collarless shirt. Mm-hmm. So I think there's lots, just tons more of little subtle things in there that you could probably pick apart that I do think somebody thought of. I don't think it was just an accident.
Yeah.
So,
Oh, I think so too. Yeah.
So it was really made for Star Wars Uber fans. So
Yeah.
take your
Definitely.
time watching it. It rewards repeat viewings, as I've seen it several times now, and it's a lot of fun to pick up on those things.
Yep, absolutely. Okay, does anybody have anything else for the Easter eggs episode?
I think that's it. If
Okay.
anybody finds any more, they can add in the comments.
Yep, please do. And so, yeah, speaking of that, give us some feedback. Let us know what you think of the show, how we're doing. Give us some topic suggestions. Not that we're short of any, but maybe we come up with something we haven't thought of. And you can find us on Facebook. Just search for the Cantina Club, Twitter at 78 Cantina. And we will see you next time.
I'm waiting for Needles, a Star Wars story.
Needles is actually, I mentioned Needles is actually one of the drag racers from Back to the Future. I don't know if that was
What?
Yes, one of the drag racers from Back to the Future.
Also used in medicine quite a bit.
And Solo always does shots first. Singing yup no.
Yup, yup.
You're singing yup no.
Chucha.
Yup no.
No.
At the Cantina Club.
Gun,